Hi, this is Jen Rubin. This is Jen Rubin's Green Room. Welcome back. And remember, if you like these programs, tell your friends. They can click right there and listen and follow us wherever they get their podcasts. I also want to hear from you about what you think and what questions you may have. Well, the last 24 hours, as we record this on Friday, have been eventful, put it that way. Donald Trump appeared at a press conference at Mar-a-Lago in a rambling, disjointed, batshit crazy, lie-filled performance that reminded us how nuts he is, and moreover, what a rotten job the press does of conveying that to the American people. First of all, there was no follow-up to questions. When he was going on about how his crowd size was the largest in history, well, I guess Adolf Hitler wasn't around to pull rank on him, but to explain that he had bigger crowds than MLK, the March on Washington, that's absurd. And no one called him on. No one followed up. No one said, but that's insane, Mr. President. Or how can you possibly say that? Or why do you keep lying about your crowd size? None of that. When he made other outrageous claims about Kamala Harris, again, about her race, when he insisted that he wasn't campaigning because the Democratic National Convention was ongoing. That's not for 2 weeks. Why do they not follow up, either that reporter or the next one, to ask, what are you talking about? Why are you off the trail? Why are you making an excuse that there's a convention going on when in fact it's not for 2 weeks? There is no hard, deliberate follow-up questioning, no matter what nonsense he says. And of course, there are the questions that never get asked. Why isn't he asked again? Why are you still insisting that you did not win in 2020? Why are you still insisting you will not accept the results of 2024? He is never asked about those. He's not even asked about his own draft dodging. He's got a vice presidential nominee out there running around attacking Tim Walz falsely about Tim Walz's service in the National Guard. And no one thinks to ask him, well, what about your own deferrals? What about that bone spur diagnosis you got from a friendly family doctor? Didn't you evade your service? Why are you picking on a guy who actually did serve the military? There's none of that. There's no confrontation. There's no effort to break the frame. Remember just a couple weeks ago, maybe it was last week, time gets screwed up, that the NABJ journalists were asking hard, uncomfortable questions? There's none of that here. They let him ramble on. They don't follow up. They don't ask the questions you and I want him asked. And you have to ask why. Why? And you can come away with a couple conclusions. One is that they simply are incapable of coming out of their, well, on this hand and on that hand, and treating him like something other than a normal candidate. So they don't. They simply treat him like a normal candidate, even when he isn't, even when what they see and hear is not normal. But it's worse than that. Remember how they swarmed on Joe Biden? They drove him out of the race. They piled on when he did appear old and out of it at the debate. Do they do that when Trump shows up like this and gives a performance that is objectively worse than Biden's? No. So you can only imagine they're angling for clicks. They're angling for access later on. They're afraid of being called biased in favor of liberals. And so they don't do their job. It is a spectacular media failure. So few people call them out. God bless him. Lawrence O'Donnell last night did. And he did call them out, explaining that they've learned nothing in 9 years, which is absolutely true. And you know what's interesting? If you go to some less mainstream outlets, they actually get it right. You go to Vanity Fair, which had a very good description of what was going on, his lies, his disjointedness, his crazed performance. You go to The Guardian, they report it. What's the matter with our mainstream media? What's the matter with ABC, CBS, NBC, the cable networks? I don't know. At some point, you have to say this is deliberate. If they perhaps you could make the excuse last time they were trying to be fair, or they were not trying to show their hand, but now they know what he's about. They know there's no normalcy, and they must know that what they are conveying does not accurately portray who this guy is. And that's a real problem. Now, he has agreed to the ABC moderated debate. We'll have to see. Are they going to be there like automatons, like the CNN moderators, and just keep time? Yes, Mr. Trump. Now it's Miss Harris's time. Mr. Trump, what do you think about housing policy? And he runs off, never answering the question, and they never follow up. Are we going to get more like that? Are they going to fail to ask the hard questions? Are they going to let him avoid any substantive questions? Don't get your hopes up. These people are not capable of conducting hard-charging, aggressive questioning of Donald Trump. So when she gets on that stage, if Trump in fact shows up, Kamala Harris is going to have to do it herself. Now, I would suggest she say at the beginning, this guy is going to lie so much, I can't possibly fact check it all in real time. But if you go to KamalaHarrisTrumpLies.com, we will have a running account of every single lie. In the meantime, I will try to point out some of the worst ones, but I can't do it all. It'll take too much time. She should do that at the beginning of the debate. And that might give at least the media some basis for explaining the extent of the lies. And that's really what gets you. It's not just that he lies and they report this isn't true, that isn't true. We've never had a candidate who lied this much of this magnitude in the history of the Republic. Something is different about Donald Trump. Yes, he's an autocrat, and he's a narcissist, and he's nuts. And the fact that the press will not accurately tell us what is going on makes this moment in democracy very, very dangerous. Now, the good news is that Harris and Walz are exceeding all expectations. They appeared at the UAW hall on Thursday, and she spoke for only about 6 minutes or so, but she was stupendous. She was talking about collective action, about reclaiming the promise of America, about how we don't divide and we don't demonize our fellow Americans. It was really quite beautiful, quite emotional. It was punchy. It was a little deviation from her usual stump speech. And Walz was equally good, talking about his devotion to labor, talking about his devotion to ordinary Americans. They were, in a word, spectacular. And if they keep that up from now through the election, I think they're going to be in very good shape. And we already see this dramatic change in the polls. Now, I am not one to tell you to look at the polls and think that those are reflective of where we're going to be. But if you like polls, or you've been nervous about polls, you can now enjoy yourself and look at the polls and see the dramatic difference. Now, President Biden, again, we cannot thank him enough for his service, for his magnificent presidency, and for stepping away. But I will say, his advisors are a disgrace and an embarrassment. Anita Dunn gave an interview to Politico in which she repeats all of the nonsense that he was fine, it was the press that chased him out, it was Democrats who savaged their guy. No awareness whatsoever that he looked like death warmed over. No awareness that they were losing the race. She sounded absolutely deluded. And what, for goodness sakes, is she doing running around repeating the same rationalization for Biden and the same attacks on Democrats for kicking him out? What is she doing? I don't know. She's trying to justify her place in history? I don't know. Now, nominally, she is an advisor to Kamala Harris. Perhaps she should be sent to South Dakota to do get out the vote work. But really, I think the Biden people need to go quietly away. Their boss has handled himself magnificently, with dignity, with farsightedness. They, however, are a bit of a disgrace. Now, this week, I also had the opportunity to sit down with Nancy Pelosi. And if you take a look at my Sunday column, I'll describe that interview with a small group of journalists here in Washington, as well as a review of her book. She is the savviest, funniest, most blunt politician you're ever going to talk to. Now, did we ask her about the effort to have Biden step away? Well, she's not going to tell us what she told the president. She's not going to tell us how many times she spoke with the president. She's not going to tell us whether she met with him in person, or it was just by phone. She denies that she intentionally orchestrated on that MSNBC interview a reopening of the case. She plays a little bit of, who, me? But needless to say, I think she understands very well, and certainly the rest of us understand very well, her place in history in helping to engineer this miraculous rescue from the jaws of victory. And as she said, she is completely devoted to making sure that man, as she refers to him, what's his name, as she sometimes calls him, Bozo, as she sometimes refers to him, never sets foot in the White House again. So kudos to her. Her book, by the way, is fabulous. You should go get it. It is a compendium of all of her political battles and her ins and outs with Republicans. She is absolutely biting with regard to Mitch McConnell, calling him a liar, calling him unpatriotic in the way he allowed Trump to escape conviction in the second impeachment. She's really something. And if, in fact, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz pull this off, they deserve all the credit in the world. But once again, without Nancy Pelosi, we would be up a creek. And let's be honest here. The best politician in my lifetime, at least my adult lifetime, the most effective politician has been Nancy Pelosi. Her legislative achievements and now her political achievements are really unparalleled. So thank goodness for Nancy Pelosi. So where are we? We're going into the week before the convention. The Democrats are riding high. They need to keep at it. They need to snuff out this swift boating attack on Governor Walz's military record. It's nonsense. The Washington Post, to its credit, has a good fact-checking, debunking the accusations. But they can't take anything for granted, because as Trump becomes more desperate, more cornered, he realizes not only is he going to lose, but as a result, he's going to get prosecuted and probably go to jail. So the more desperate he becomes, the more outrageous he will become, the more intent he will be on trying to prevent the duly elected Democrats, if they are elected, take power. He will want to seize power. He will want to deny them legitimacy. But if all of us turn out to vote and she wins by a lot, then it's really hard to cheat. Remember that. If it's not close, they can't cheat. So I'll see you next time. Be well. Do your civic duty. See you next time. Bye-bye.